We'll delve into the Mar-a-Lago Raid, the left's Lawfare, and more dastardly deeds aimed at destroying President Trump with attorney author Christina Bobb on this episode of United Patriots Uprising with Gary Binford. I'm your host, Gary Binford. Thanks for joining us. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We'll give you more information about where you can watch and listen to the show at the end of the episode. Christina Bobb was on for the second time a couple years ago talking about election fraud, declaring we must stop it before it destroys us. Well, a lot has happened since then. Not only has the left hit us with election fraud, but they have actually tried to destroy President Trump in more ways than you can imagine. Christina's wrote another book about it. You ready to hear? Well, let's get into it. My guest is an attorney in Washington, D.C. with the emphasis on national security law. She's been an investigative reporter and a former television host and correspondent with One American News Network, dealing almost exclusively on election integrity. And boy, did we need that. This led her to join President Trump's legal team following the 2020 election. Then she served as senior counsel to the Republican National Committee's election integrity section during the 2024 election cycle, intent upon ensuring a Trump victory. Her latest book is entitled Defiant: Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. I welcome back to the show, Christina Bobb. How are you, Christina?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me.
And Christina, it's a pleasure to always have you. And your latest book is being called a gripping firsthand expose of the coordinated legal and political attacks against Donald Trump and his allies, which revealed the deep state's effort to undermine our democracy. Simply stated, over the past few years, could you believe what has happened in America and that you got to live through a lot of it up close and personal in real time?
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable and pretty shocking. I was President Trump's representative on site during the raid. I was the custodian of records prior to the raid and the meetings with the Department of Justice and FBI. And what I saw with that shocked me. And then the retaliation that came after the fact, I'm still a criminal defendant today as we speak. My case is still open. The indictment's been thrown out, but I'm still fighting that. I was sued. I was subpoenaed. I had nine legal matters open in a matter of 3 years. The amount of lawfare I experienced was absurd. And so I'm honored that President Trump actually did the foreword for the book. There's a note to the reader from President Trump, which is really exciting. But it's time that America understands the truth about what actually happened, because all of us were under criminal investigation, some of us under indictment, the president under indictment for so long. I wasn't allowed to disclose what was going on because I don't want to negatively impact anybody. But now that most importantly, the president's case has been dropped, now I can put the information out. My case has not been dropped, so it's a bit of a risk for me to take it, but it's important that the American people understand what's going on. So I'm doing it anyway, but it's important that people know the truth about what actually happened.
Absolutely. And that is one of the biggest things that people, when I run into, they keep asking me the same question. Everybody thought once Donald Trump got back in office and Pam Bondi and Cash and Ratcliffe, everybody got in, Bongino, everybody's in, that all of a sudden, all the dastardly deeds and everything had been done that was wrong, underhanded, unconstitutional would come out. I was very involved with the J6ers. Probably the only reason I didn't end up in jail, it was too damn cold that day. So I did not take the bus down to DC. I would have been with a lot of my friends. And, who knows? But I'm just saying there's a whole bunch of things still going on with the J6ers and their lives. and forgetting the Epstein, but just everything that President Trump went through, the Russia hoax, all the lawfare, Letitia Deans, everything. We were saying, okay, now let's get them. It hasn't happened yet. It seems to be coming out in books. Is it kind of like, are you going to tell me that there's something kind of stopping this from coming out, or it's just not the right time?
I think they're working on it. I mean, yes, technically they're in control of the federal government, but they're not really. Kash Patel can't do all the work by himself, and Pam Bondi certainly can't, sift through the files by herself and look through everything. So they're still relying on the same people who were obstructing President Trump in the first place to give them the information that they need to prosecute them. So it's a difficult position to be in, but they're doing it. The fact that they have opened a grand jury looking into, the Russia collusion hoax, that's a great start. I think they are on track to get some prosecutions under their belt during this term. They don't have all day. We need to see some stuff come out of this, but I think they're on track to produce it. It's a heavy lift.
Okay, now you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but this is one thing that most conservatives have never understood about the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. When Barack Obama got in office, he fired everybody. If you were conservative, bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. He got rid of everybody. We still have people in there that why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of people that have burrowed in. You have different types of employees. You have political appointees and you have career officials. So the political appointees are much easier to fire than career officials. And I would hope that all of them have been fired. I think there are some career officials lingering around that still need to be fired. But they're a little bit harder to get rid of because technically they're not political. But some of them have been fired, but not enough.
I understand. In your book, you say Donald Trump returning to the White House was against all odds in 2024. It's a miracle comeback. Now, I'm going to ask you, why was it a miracle comeback? Because a lot of us expected it. I mean, I understand when you're looking at odds per se and where he was in 2020 and all the things against him, but Christians, I know we expected this. God's not giving us over to communism, at least not yet. Too many people are praying. So I understand technically it's against all odds, and it was a miracle, but why? What made it against all odds and such a miracle? Because most everyday hardworking people really don't understand what was going on.
Well, I mean, the amount of lawfare that he survived really is miraculous, in not just the criminal cases, but the lawsuits and then the defamation that went along with that. I don't think there's anybody else on the planet that could have withstood what President Trump endured in order to win the White House. Now, of course, everybody that was working for him expected him to win. If we didn't think he was going to win, why would we bother putting our necks out? So we all expected him to win. But the fact that he survived all of that and made it through, and oh, by the way, he got shot in the process. It's miraculous in and of itself. Not unexpected, but it doesn't change the fact that it really was miraculous.
I hear you. Now, I was going to ask you, because a lot of people know the name, but a lot of people may not actually understand what lawfare is, why it hurt him so badly. And it's not just the cases like it with General Flynn and Roger Stone and everybody else that went through this. It bankrupts you financially. A lot of lawyers didn't want to take people's cases. Their law firms wouldn't let, no, you can't touch that one. So there's a lot of stuff behind them. So please explain to them exactly what lawfare is and how that was used to weaponize.
Yeah, well, you explained it well. Anytime there's a lawsuit or a criminal case, you have to hire a lawyer, which gets expensive. And then there's a media campaign waged against you, saying, oh, this person's a criminal because they've been accused. Forget the fact that they're completely exonerated or, found not guilty, or the charges are dropped, or the lawsuit itself is dropped or settled or whatever. The media, the use of the justice system grants the media a license to defame you because they use the case as their source to say all kinds of terrible things about you. So it's expensive, it's time consuming. I mean, so much of my time, rather than focus on the campaign trail when I was working for President Trump's campaign, so much of my time was spent defending myself in my cases that it takes away from my actual job of working on the campaign. So it's time consuming, it's expensive. It gives media license to defame you. And I mean, it takes an emotional toll on you. It takes a toll on your family. It's scary because you wonder, am I going to end up in prison for something I didn't do? Am I going to lose everything I've ever owned or ever worked for something that didn't happen? So it just takes an emotional toll, and it's an abuse of the process, because that's not what our justice system is intended for, but that's what it's been reduced to through these false cases that never should be brought, whether they're criminal cases or civil cases. But they're just using the court system to defame people unfairly.
And please address the media, Christina, because they couldn't get away with this. One of the things I've done several times over the years on this show is talk about cover, like in the old cowboy movies, or even in the detective movies or the shoot 'em ups or whatever. The good guys are shooting against the bad guy, and somebody wants to get a better position, so he yells, "Cover me," which means he's going to run out in plain sight. So
Yeah.
you have to keep shooting at the other guy to keep him down, because otherwise they just shoot the guy. So he says, "Cover me," then he'll run, he'll go hide behind, he'll run to the barn. So his guys are shooting, so you can't hit him.
Yeah.
Without the media, there would have been no cover. If the media was even semi-fair, all of this would have been exposed for what it was, kabuki theater. It was all evil. Everybody knows it, including the media. They did it anyway. They're continuing to doing it. So please explain what the media's role has been here,
Yeah.
because if the media had just come out and said, "Wait a minute, there's no case here. Wait a minute." I still don't understand why Adam Schiff is walking around. You know what I mean? I don't get
Yeah.
it, among
You're
others.
You're right. I mean, the media just spewed their lies for both, particularly for the Jack Smith cases, although it was true for all of the cases, not just against Donald Trump, but the cases against me and the case against, General Flynn and Mark Meadows and Rudy Giuliani, all of us that experienced it, it was all fake. But just looking at what happened with President Trump, let's look at the Jack Smith cases, the January 6th case and the Mar-a-Lago case. It was all smoke and mirrors. Remember, it's insurrection, insurrection. Nobody, not President Trump, not any of the nearly 1,600 defendants, no one was even charged with insurrection. So they keep telling you, oh, there was this insurrection, it was horrible. Nobody was charged with it. Legally speaking, there was no insurrection. That is a media talking point that was never based in reality. And then you have the Mar-a-Lago case, where the case ended up as an obstruction of justice case in Florida, but that's not what they wanted it to be. The original grand jury that I testified at, and the whole story is in the book, was in Washington, D.C. Well, why was it in Washington, D.C.? Because they were intending to charge Donald Trump in Washington, D.C., not with obstruction of justice, but with something else related to documents, whether it was, a Clinton-type espionage case or, something more nefarious, but they just didn't have the evidence. And we all know the saying, you can indict a ham sandwich. Their case was so weak, they would not have been able to secure an indictment in Washington, D.C. So they had to move it to Florida and change it to an obstruction of justice case, which in and of itself was a throwaway, dumpy case that they had to file because they had raided Mar-a-Lago and didn't have a good reason to tell the American public why they raided the place. And so everyone, including Jack Smith, they all knew that case in Florida was going nowhere and it was going to get thrown out, which it did. But that's not what the media told you.
Yeah, you're right about that. Before we get into the book, everybody who has worked for President Trump that's come on the show, I like to ask them this question. Where were you when he got shot in Butler, and what were you thinking? I remember Peter Navarro, the last time he was on, he said he was in his cell and he's watching, and he said the sight line, he's saying, I'm looking at this, and the sight lines just didn't look right. It was almost like he saw something looks wrong with this picture before this whole thing started. So where were you? And after our president got shot, what were you thinking?
I was in Wisconsin, actually. I was there getting ready for the convention, working with some of the folks on the ground in Wisconsin. So I was not actually watching the news at the moment. I was, interacting with some state leaders when they notified me and said that President Trump had been shot. at the time that I was notified, I was also notified that he was okay. So thank God I never had, a panic moment that, wondering if he made it or not. So thankfully, I was aware that he was okay from the moment that I found out about it. But I mean, it's just very surreal thinking how evil is this going to get to where they want to murder our president. But I was grateful that he was okay.
Well, I'm sure you know because a lot of us that have been around a lot of people who are close to him know that wasn't the first time. That was just the first time they almost got him. But
Yeah.
this has been totally ridiculous. The name of the book is Defiant: Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. Christina Bobb, her second book. So you take the readers behind the infamous raid, exposing unprecedented abuses of power. What we want everybody to read the book, but what do you want to tell the people that you have said that we don't know yet? Yeah, just a nugget or two, or just give us a general idea of since you were a part of this,
Yep.
the behind the scenes story.
Yeah. So I give you all the details. I've got text messages and emails in there showing you the exact timeline. So you can see exactly how the whole thing came to be from months before the raid until, well after the raid. And the thing that I really want people to take away from this is, one, the horrible lies and abuses that the Biden administration used to execute this, but also it's continuing to this day. Like I said, I'm still a criminal defendant. There's about 60 others that are still being prosecuted by Democrats across the country right now at the state level. And the systematic abuse by Democrats of our justice system has to stop. And the only way it can stop is if they're prosecuted. And so it's so important that President Trump has opened this grand jury, or I should say Pam Bondi has opened this grand jury to look into the abuses of government, because it's the only way it can stop. And I know, myself included, I want all of these prosecutions to end. I don't want to see it anymore, but we can't stop until we know they're not going to use it against us in the future. And if we stop now, they're still coming for us, and they're going to come harder. So it's really important that people understand exactly what happened through the whole Trump situation into present day, how it's still playing out.
Your book documents relentless campaign indictments, subpoenas, and media manipulation designed to destroy President Trump and silence his supporters. Do you think people are really aware of that? And when you say that, what do you mean, as far as the media manipulation? Because the media manipulate, the others are aimed at him, but the media manipulation is aimed at the people.
Yeah, the media manipulation is aimed at crafting a narrative that they hope the American public will believe. Um, I think the American public knows that that's happening. I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock to not realize that. But I think they wonder what the truth is. And a lot of times you can kind of piece through it and figure it out yourself. But sometimes you can't, especially when the story is a flat out lie, like a lot of what happened at Mar-a-Lago is. So yeah, I think people are aware, but they want to know the truth. And that's part of why I wrote the book, so that people will know the truth.
Yeah, well, here's what's starting to scare me about the truth. You would think people would have caught on to the media by now and removed them. And meaning, okay, they've been wrong about everything. The Russia collusion was wrong. The J6, they're wrong. The election integrity, they're wrong. They're wrong. They're wrong on everything. They're wrong on Jussie Smollett. We could just go up and down. Anything dealing with MAGA or President Trump or anybody involved with President Trump, they're on the wrong side of everything. Now all of us told them Joe Biden Joe is the sharpest. I can't even outrun him, and I'm 20 years old. They were wrong about that, and everybody in America knows that. So why do they still have a voice? And is anybody listening?
Well, that's the question, right? Their voice is getting smaller. That's why you're seeing so many of these crazy shows get canceled, because no one's listening to them anymore. They don't have the viewers that they had even in 2016 and 2020. So it's thanks to shows like your show and a lot of other kind of alternative news outlets, whether it's podcasts or radio, that is speaking the truth, that people are tuning into other shows, other avenues. So I do think media is being decentralized, which is great. For a while, so many people were kind of relying on the big three news networks, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, to kind of dictate the news. But people aren't relying on them anymore. And they're shifting to podcasts and alternative forms of media. So I love the fact that media is getting decentralized and that there are other voices that are rising up to create awareness that maybe the mainstream narrative doesn't cover. And it's an interesting development in media and where people get their information. I mean, I think the world is changing in regard to that. And I think it's a really good change.
I really believe that people want safe communities.
Yeah.
And to try and turn President Trump trying to save lives in Washington or DC or any city, to try and turn that into a political or racial, I think and if the media, again, taking the wrong side of this, the mainstream media, I think this may be one that, because everybody knows, and somebody said, I forgot who said it. Oh, I know it was Harold Ford on the 5. And he said, everybody wants safe communities. It doesn't matter what color you are. Yeah. And he said, even when you tell people, like in the Black community, hey, the murder rate and the crime is going down. He said, yeah, it may be going down, but you still feel it. So everybody would want it eliminated, whether they say so or not. Could this kind of be one of the final nails in their coffin? I hope.
Well, I mean, they're losing on every issue because they're putting their hatred for Donald Trump above common sense on issues. And so they're losing every issue. As far as the crime rate in DC going down, it is going down, and it has been going down since Donald Trump won the election, because almost immediately he threatened to invoke the home rule. And so DC Mayor Muriel Bowser did what she could to lower the crime rate to try to prevent this. And it worked a little bit, and that's why crime has been coming down. But in order to get it to where it needs to be, she would have had to invoke Republican policies, which of course would have run counter to her party. And so she couldn't get it low enough, couldn't get the crime rate low enough to satisfy the president, although she did lower the rate a little bit because she was nervous that he was going to invoke the home rule. And so he finally just said, forget it, I'm invoking the home rule and I'm going to take it over. And yes, of course, everybody wants safe cities. Democrats need to get over their hatred for Donald Trump and agree where it matters, where safety is concerned. And they need to start focusing on the issues and actually having real substantive debates on the issues. Because let's face it, Republicans can't possibly be right on everything. I think Donald Trump's right on a lot. I think he's right on a lot right now. But I think it's because Democrats have sacrificed the common sense ground. They've abandoned common sense. They need to return to that and actually have meaningful discussions and meaningful debate about the policy issues, which is actually what is best for our country. And they're refusing to do that because they hate Donald Trump so much. Well,
not only that, they've sold out to the Marxist ideology, and there's no going back. They're stuck.
Right.
They're stuck. The name of the book is Defiant: Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. And in the book, you say, you warn the battle for America's future was, and I assume still is, far from over.
Yeah, it is far from over. We finally are at the place now where we can fight back. We've been fighting to get back into a position where President Trump has some authority to actually make these changes. But we're seeing a lot of resistance from Republicans in the House and the Senate. I mean, let's face it, President Trump's biggest opposition are not Democrats. Democrats have lost the common sense. They're a freaky sideshow. His biggest opposition is Republicans. And so we're finally in a place where we can clean out the corruption, but that includes corruption on the Republican side. So we've got work to do. It's not over.
Do you think the Republican establishment, which isn't MAGA, and a lot of them are probably globalists, and they like the way it was, are they trying to play out the string, shorten the game and just saying, okay, we just have to get through 4 years and then we can take it back to like it used to be?
I think there's some that want to do that. Yeah. And I think in 2020, it was more so that way. But, for every year, for every 2-year election cycle that President Trump has been in the picture, I mean, the MAGA crowd is getting rid of more and more rhinos. We see Liz Cheney's out, Adam, what's his face? Kissinger?
Prinzinger,
yeah,
right.
Crying. Yeah. Kinzinger, that's right. Adam Kinzinger.
Right.
He's out. So we're seeing that get cleared out, but it's not cleared out enough. But we've come a long way, but there's more to go.
I hear you. I want to ask you a personal question because, as you
Okay.
know, and I honestly mean this because I know, like you and John Guandola, you're my favorite Marines, and I know John schooled me on what it was to be a Marine because I had him on because I had met John a couple times, and he came on and I said, "Former Marine." He says, "Gary, you're never a former Marine. You're a Marine," and I understood what that meant. So, what I want to know, because you gotta be a tough lady to be in the Marines. I mean, it's just the Marines are the Marines. They're special.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, how were you able to get through these last 5 years? Your life was threatened. You could have gone to prison. There was just so much going on, and it never stopped. It never ended. It never was right. Did the Marine training help, or would you have just been able to handle this without it? Because we won't call any names, but there are several politicians, several lawmakers, and several attorneys that cut bait and ran. And I don't begrudge them that, because if the heat is too hot, please get out of the kitchen. I don't have a problem with that. If you can't handle it, you can't handle it.
Yeah, that's true. And there were a lot that ran away and hid. And then they come back later after President Trump won and pretend like, oh, I've always supported Donald Trump. Oh, okay, well, you ran from the fight. I definitely think being part of the Marine Corps helped. But I can speak for myself, although it's probably true for other Marines as well. You kind of have to have a bent for being a Marine in the first place. The kind of person that wants to go into the Marine Corps is probably a little extreme original, before you even get there. So it forges you. It definitely shapes you. And it certainly helped me over the last 5 years. But I mean, what I went through and what I experienced was hell. It was absolutely hell. They were trying to destroy me in every conceivable way. And I got through it with the help of really good people, whether it was donors who helped pay some of my legal fees, or whether it was friends who were just supportive. There are good people out there. And they were helpful to me and my family. Certainly the support of my family was a really big deal. But it's good people that's what makes America great, is the good people in this country. And that's what helped get me through it.
You can plead the fifth on this one, but did you ever get that phone call or that little message or somebody that said, "Hey, Christina, doesn't have to go down this way. You keep your money. You can walk the streets. All you have to do is, we got a little something here on this little sheet of paper. Just give us what we want, and you can walk away."
I was never offered payment for it, but certainly through the many investigations that I went through, it was pretty clear that if I ever decided to roll on Donald Trump, my life would get easier. I didn't. My life did not get easier.
Right.
But no, I mean, it was never really an option for me personally, because I just was so committed. And I think the people investigating me could see that. And so even though it was kind of, if you just say this one thing, things will be easier for you, it didn't last very long because they knew I wasn't going to do it.
There you go. I've really enjoyed talking to you. The final thing is we always like to try and end on a high note. So tell people, you told people in the book all the stuff that was dastardly and wrong and dirty and underhanded and unlawful. Is there a hope at the end? What can people do to try and help make sure this never happens again?
Yeah, well, one, support President Trump and Pam Bondi in their efforts to prosecute these people. I know there's a lot of people that go, "Oh, stop. We don't want it to happen anymore." We can't stop yet. We have to prosecute them, or they will come back harder and make sure that we don't have an opportunity again. So first of all, just know what's going on and understand why these investigations and why these prosecutions are so important, and just support them in your sphere of influence, whatever that is. If you want to run for office, get involved, be a part of a community, outreach program, become a part of a campaign for someone you support. Be involved. I suspect your viewers probably already are involved, but we are a self-governed nation, at least we're supposed to be. In order to do that, we have to self-govern, meaning the community needs to be involved. So just get involved however you can, and help make America great again.
Yeah, and you brought up a very interesting point. Does the president or the people around him, his inner circle, I know the left does this, but are they reading the tea leaves here? Are they looking to see, do we have the wind behind our back?
Oh, yeah.
Because as you start prosecuting, the bigger the names, the harder it is to swallow for the American people. And I know there's some people that just don't want to believe that certain people on either side of the aisle, their favorite entertainer, their favorite actor, their favorite athlete, favorite politician, even their favorite pastor, could be guilty of trying to overthrow this nation and overthrow, don't press. So are they going to go ahead with this regardless of what the people, because the left, the media is already trying to set the stage that, this is going to be a, witch hunt.
Yeah, well, this administration cares very much about what the American people want. They know that these prosecutions need to take place, which is why they're doing the investigation, which is why they've opened a grand jury. But they care a lot about what the American people want and what the American people can tolerate, because going through this is difficult, and leading us through this as a nation is difficult. And the Epstein case is a perfect example. They were prepared to close it, and they basically had closed it, and America reacted and said, wait, no, we don't want that. We want this case open. We want an investigation conducted. And they said, okay, we'll do it. They responded to what the American people said. So yes, they care very much about this. And that's part of why I want to encourage everybody that these prosecutions need to take place. Don't lose heart, stay focused, stay vigilant, and let's save our nation.
Yep. I hear you. Christina, thank you for coming on. The name of the book is Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. Please tell people where they can get the book and anything else you'd like to promote.
Yep, it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. The official release date is September 9th. You can pre-order it. President Trump did the foreword. I'm excited for you to read that. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram, X, and Truth at Christina_Bobb. So please check it out.
Christina, thank you for who you are and what you do. Keep up the great fight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
God bless you and your family. Christina Bobb, there you have it, everybody. I want to thank Christina Bobb for coming back and letting us know about her new book, which will be out the second week of September. President Trump has been through a lot, and we think we know because we know what we see and hear, but there's a whole lot that was going on behind the scenes dealing with the Mar-a-Lago Raid, Lawfare, all the subpoenas, the investigations, the attempted assassinations. Christina's going to get into all of it, and she was right there. A lot of it even involved her. So thank you for writing another great book, Christina, and thank you for who you are, and keep up the great fight. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you get your favorite podcast. The video version you can find at YouTube, Rumble, the God Family and Country Television Network, the Rose Unplugged Media Network, VirginiaChristian.org, the America First Warehouse.com, yournews.com, OBBM Network Television, and WeSeeYouMedia.com. Wherever you go, please subscribe, leave us a rating and a review, because we'd love to hear from you what you think about the show. Now, this is my fourth year. The first two were audio only, and there's a lot of great guests who were on prior to 2024 audio, and what they said then is really just as valid today. So if you go to radioinfluence.com/category/United Patriots Uprising / you will find guests such as Ben Carson, Monica Crowley, Kira Davis, Diamond and Silk, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, Pastor Jack Hibbs, Tom Holman, Charlie Kirk, Carrie Lake, Mike Lindell, Dick Morris, Peter Navarro, Judge Janine Pirro, AJ Rice, and Carol Swain. So we hope you check that out too. Well, that's it for now, everyone. So until the next time, this is your host, Gary Binford, saying God bless you, God bless your families, and God bless America.